Hi, welcome to episode 271 of your favorite daily podcast, A Couple of Things, a podcast about things. There are 94 days left in the year, and 94 is the length of an NBA court in feet. It is also the atomic number of plutonium. Also, today in history, in on September 28, 1928, Sir Alexander Fleming noticed a bacteria killing mold growing in his lab, which basically was when he discovered what became known as penicillin. Okay, that's enough historical facts. Today, I'm going to talk about a UX related topic, which is about doing UX research and UX in B2B context. Let's get into it. Oh, by the way, before we go into it, what do you guys think about the random facts thing? Do you like it? Should I stop it? I don't know. I'm having fun with it. Let me know what you think. Also, my birthday is in a month. I was supposed to say this yesterday, but I forgot. My birthday is in a month. So you know I get into the best time of the year because it's my birthday. My birthday season. My birthday is a whole thing. If you're new here, I'm obsessed with birthdays. I love birthdays. But that will be maybe tomorrow's episode. But okay, let's talk about UX and B2B in UX in the B2B context and some of the things that have helped me in this path. I would say I've been working with B2B products for like 4 or 5 years. For the past 3 years, the products I've been working on is basically only B2B. There's no B2C side to it. And in my previous role as well, it was primarily B2B, although there was a B2C part of it. And then in some other roles, I've worked on stuff that were B2B related as well. So basically, I have some experience doing UX research for B2B products. Okay. So in B2B, it's a bit tricky to do research in particular because you're dealing with a much smaller population to recruit from. And I say population because I can't think of another word, but basically the population is, maybe I would say, like the total addressable market in business terms, like the basically all the people who fit into your target audience for your product. So it's smaller than for your average B2C products. For I know that like B2C products, they always have, oh, this is our primary audience and blah blah blah, but technically most B2C products, the audience is everybody. Right? But with B2B, there is a narrower scope. So first of all, that's the first challenge. You have a narrower scope of people to reach out to. And then if you want to even narrow it further to your customer base, a lot of B2C products have customers going into the millions, like millions of users, daily active, monthly active, whatever. But with B2B, the actual customer is often different from the user. So the person who is paying for the product is often different from the person who ends up using the product. And so you can have one customer, but that one customer has like 5 users or hundreds of users, right? And those two things are different, and you always have to keep that in consideration when you are trying to do research or make decisions and things like that. So you have to really, really think about, when you want to do UX research in a B2B context, you need to think about what type of research are you trying to do and who is the best person to do that. So, for example, for like a SaaS tool, like say Slack or maybe Workday or something, right? The person who pays for it, like, or usually will be the maybe person who have like admin permissions or whatever. The person who manages it may also even be different from the person who pays for it. So with Workday, for example, let's say it's the HR person who is the like the person who this is built for, essentially. However, it may not be the HR person who's making the decision about buying it. It could be the CEO, it could be the CFO, it could be somebody else. I don't know. I don't know anything about Workday. I'm just using that as an example. But just think about the fact that the person who actually pays for your product. So if you want to do research into like, oh, how should we talk about this product to the buyers, is different from how you talk about the products to the people who actually use it. Which is not to say that, and I think a mistake that I've seen people make when it comes to this is that they then totally discard the user when they're thinking about the buyer, which I don't think is a good idea, because sometimes, even though the buying decision may end up with someone else, sometimes it's the user who brings the product into the awareness of the buyer. So, for example, let me take it out B2B and products and digital products and SaaS products and stuff like that. Think about a toy, right? Yes, it's the parents that is buying the toy, or an auntie or an uncle, whatever, an adult, somebody is buying the toy for the kid who is 3 or 4 or 5. But sometimes it's the kid who discovers the toy and then tells their parents that I want this thing. So it's the same thing with SaaS products. The person who is, although the end user is not the buyer and they're not the one that's handing over money, they're also very important to consider in when you're thinking about your messaging and all of those kinds of things. But I'm going like off track of what I actually wanted to talk about, which is about doing research in B2B context. So yeah, that's one thing to know, like know your user, be able to differentiate who you're trying to learn about in your research and what insights, be able to like properly categorize those insights. Because even when you think about it, like from the buyer and end user point of view, even within end user, there may be different kinds of end users as well. So I'm going to think of an example. So take for example a tool like Canva, right? So maybe say and I know Canva has a B2C side, but let's ignore that and focus on the B2B side, right? So say maybe the graphic designer or the marketing designer, whomever on the team, is the person who discovers Trello and Canva, and tells their team about Canva, like, oh, let's use Canva or whatever. And now the person who actually has to purchase it is maybe the head of design or the head of product or head of marketing, or maybe even some other person who has no use of this product at all. Their own thing is just to pay for it, right? At the same time, there are other users. So the user is not just the one person. There could be and some tools have these roles that they create, like, oh, the brand manager or the admin, and or just a regular team member. And so you have those are different kinds of users of the product. So there's the buyer, and then there are also different kinds of users. And maybe another tool, I wanted to use a tool that most people will be familiar with, but let me use a research tool, a tool that researchers use. So something like Dovetail or Condense or things like that, or user testing, or and so on and so forth. So there's a buyer, right? Like, for example, in most of the places I've worked at, I'm not the buyer, even though I'm the primary user. I'm the researcher. I'm the one who's mainly doing the research work. But then there could also be things like, oh, I need people who need to be able to rewatch the recordings, or people who need to be able to take notes when I'm doing the research. Like, those are also users of the platform, and all these people have different needs. So you need to be able to properly break down and identify who's the buyer and who are the different kinds of users, and not just from it. Because again, even as a researcher, let's say a user type is researcher. Even as a researcher in a small startup of 15-20 people is not the same as a researcher in a large enterprise company that has like 100 researchers in addition to a staff of thousands, right? So these people might have different needs. So it's very, very important to be able to first break down who are the different kinds of primary users, like primary user groups, I would say. And then within those primary user groups, who are the different kinds within that. So there's user group A, B, C, and then there's user group A1, subgroup A1, A2, A3, and so on and so forth. So I think I will wrap it up here. This might end up being like a 2 or 3 episode thing. But yeah, so first thing to basically, in summary, to successfully do research in a B2B context, you need to understand the different kinds of, for lack of a better word, personas that you're working with. Okay, that's it for today. Thank you for listening. Bye. See you tomorrow as we continue the conversation on B2B research. Thank you for listening to today's episode of A Couple of Things. If there was anything you found interesting or insightful, or you enjoyed the episode, please do share to someone or multiple people. Like, leave a comment, and definitely do subscribe and all the nice things. Bye.